let's look at the reference photo. I have separated this whale into many simple shapes, so that will help us draw. First shape we see that's biggest is the belly. That is a rectangular looking parallelogram. So we'll put that in the middle of the page. To the right of it, it's a smaller parallelogram. That's the neck. And then the head is a triangle. Now to the left of the belly is a trapezoid. So we will do that as well. Then we will have a long triangle and two more triangles for the tails. So you probably want to have a screenshot of the reference photo so you can refer to it while you draw. Now we have our fins here. See how you can easily position it in the larger part of the belly instead of the neck part, and that's the benefit of drawing your object by separating into shapes. And you can also see that the fins are made of two different shapes, a rectangle and a triangle, and they have the same length. The second one, the triangle, is much shorter. Okay, we're about done with the basic shape here, and now we can add in more curves and smooth out the lines to make it look more like an animal. Right now it looks like a robot. Okay, let's give the head a little roundness to the mouth, and you notice that the belly is really rounded. You know, these whales are really huge. They are the gentle giants of the ocean. They are so big, yet they are very mellow. They are one of my favorite animals. Okay. So just gonna round out the fins here and add a little curves in there. And you notice that the tails are actually really rounded. We just round out every line here. Okay, so you see the eyes is in the smaller parallelogram, and it's in the middle of it, and it actually has lots of wrinkles around the eyes, but I don't think that's age related. Isn't that interesting? Okay, now we can add the mouth. Now it's looking really good. Let's add more lines. They have these lines that's on the belly part of their body, which is very interesting. Okay. I think the humpback whale's belly is much bigger, so let's add the curve. And they are very muscular. So these lines on the body shows how muscular they are. Okay, we're about done here. There we go. Now let's use a waterproof pen to trace out the lines that we like. And after that, we'll erase all the pencil mark. So make sure you only trace the lines you like, not the shapes. And you can vary the weight of your lines so that some lines can be darker, that can signify its shadow. Now let's erase it. There, this whale is looking pretty good. Next, we will add some white dots to the head of the whale with white crayon. These dots will help later so that the watercolor will not be absorbed by the paper. In this first layer, we will apply clean water. Apply clean water to all the whale area except for the pectoral fins. While it's still wet, apply a base layer of grayish blue to the wet area according to the reference photo. Now you see that the area we dotted with the white crayon has resisted in absorbing the paint. While the base layer is still wet, you can apply the black paint to the belly of the whale. This will create depth in your painting. This technique is wet on wet. It will blend the two colors seamlessly. Now you see I'm lifting the paint with a small piece of paper towel. This will create highlight while the paint is still wet. You can do this. You can also do it with clean brush, just going over the wet area. Now this base layer is pretty much finished. Let it dry. You can use blow dryer to speed up the process, as you see here. The reason why we want to make sure it's dry before we work on the pectoral fin is so that the colors don't mix together and create muddy puddles. Now I'm applying clean water to only the pectoral fins, and while it's still wet, I'm dabbing in a very light shade of gray, following my reference photo. And while it's wet, you can apply darker shades and the color will blend in seamlessly. And this is wet on wet. Next, we will work on the flukes of the whale. This is a wet on dry technique. We're just adding a dark glaze over the base layer. Using the same technique, we'll add glaze to the underbelly of the whale to create depth by adding black paint. Once you have outlined your shade, you can apply clean water with your brush to smooth out the edges. Then you can add more dark shadow to areas according to your reference photo. You can repeat this process until you're happy with your result. Now you can darken the lines around the eyes and the mouth. I apologize that the screen is not showing the full picture of the whale, but you get the gist. Repeat the same process to the other areas of the whale by doing the wet on dry technique. Here I'm going to accentuate some lines that I have traced before, and I will add water to smooth out all the edges so that it doesn't look too harsh on the whale. Now we will apply the final touch-up on this humpback whale. We will be using the dry on dry technique. Dab the brush in the clean water and apply it directly to the paint without creating a puddle that will pick up a lot of pigment. We will add shadow around the eyes and darken each line that you traced before around the eyes and the mouth. And we'll also darken the ventral pleat, which are the lines on the underbelly side right below the mouth. Did you know that these ventral pleats are skin folds that allow the whale to open their mouth wider than they're originally shaped? They need to do that because they take in food by swallowing a large amount of ocean water. And their teeth, which are shaped like combs, will filter out the water as they swallow. So the ventral pleat help them to swallow a lot of food at one time. Isn't that incredible? God created these whales with so much detail. And God loves you so much more than these whales, and He has a special purpose for you. God loves you, and He wants you to know that He cares about you, even more so than these humpback whales and all the other creatures. Now you have finished your humpback whale, let it dry. You can also speed up the process by blow drying it. And if you're interested in adding a background, follow along by using a flat brush and a wet on wet technique. First, apply clean water using the flat brush to the white area only around the whale. Please don't wet the whale because then the paint will go into the whale area. I'm using a flat brush so that it can go into those tiny spaces between the whale and its fluke and its fins. Now you want to apply the blue color to the wet area around the whale. By using wet on wet technique, the color will be more seamless and you will not have any hard line between each stroke. Do the same process to the top part and then apply blue paint into that area. You can add more blue paint as you like it and just even it out while it's still wet, and then it will be a seamless transition between each stroke. Lastly, we will apply sunlight to the ocean. We will use the flat brush and dab it into the clean water. Using that clean water, we will apply strokes like what I'm doing here of light. We're not using any paint, just clean water. By doing that, you're lifting some of the blue paint that you just painted. Remember, you have to do this while the blue paint is still relatively wet, and you will create a highlight to the background. Now I'm just doing ripples to the ocean. There you have it. Here's your humpback whale. Remember, God loves you and you are precious in His sight. Have a good day.